I'm going to be putting this public service announcement at the end of all my videos going forward. I have a feeling that since YouTube is a Google Alphabet-owned company, this may not bode well for my YouTube channel, so I highly suggest checking me out on vimeo.com/Rossman Group. I get paid if you watch the video on YouTube, and I have to pay $979 a year to host it on Vimeo. Even though I lose money when you watch on Vimeo, and I make money when you watch on YouTube, I would still much prefer that you watch my content on Vimeo. I have an Android phone, and I've been using Android phones for about the past 9 years. It started with the HTC Incredible. It had an amazing feature called Voice to Text, where I could type into any sort of text box that I would usually type into with a keyboard by simply talking into my phone. We all understand that Google makes their money by perusing through our browsing history and our cookies and delivering ads that are relevant to us by going through our email, and we've all kind of accepted that. The problem is over the past few years that Google has started to just get worse and worse and worse when it comes to privacy, and just like the frog that will stay in the pot if it's slowly turned up versus jump out if you immediately toss them into boiling water, that's what's happening to us with privacy. I used this Google Voice to Text feature and it worked very well. Sometime around 2012, it started saving all of these clips to this My Activity page, which I'll link to over here, and this is searchable. So it logs everything I've ever said, it saves the transcripts of everything, and it saves the audio clips. And all of this information is not anonymized in any way. It is saved to my Google account, which is as unanonymous as it gets. It's my first initial, my middle initial, my last name at gmail.com. They have my birthday, they have my info, and this is not anonymized in any way.
So let's see here. So I was talking about a woman that I had dated many years ago. So you can just, I can hit play.
I dated a woman 7 years ago who said, comma, it's not your money, comma, but the person you had to be.
If somebody were to hack my Google account or my Gmail account, as soon as they hack my Gmail account, if I go to a phishing website of any kind, I'm not just on the hook for my email and calendar, I'm also on the hook for every conversation I've had for the past 7 years that hacker would have access to in a very searchable fashion. Many Google fanboys may say things like, well, if you don't want to risk that when you get hacked, why don't you just opt out of it so that they're not saving everything to the back end of the account? Why don't you just log in and delete it? The reason I wouldn't do that is because I had no fucking idea for the past 7 years that you opted me into that without asking me. If you don't know that your data is there, then there's no way that you can delete it. You need to know that it's there, and a lot of people that I know had no idea that it was this easily accessible and this easily tied to their Gmail address, which is often their first name dot their last name. You need to know that it's there in order to be able to opt out or delete it. And most people don't know, because Google never asked you. Because Google are rapey, creepy, Silicon Valley bastards that think that they know it all and that they know what's best for you. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if we trample on your privacy. It doesn't matter if we trample on your rights. It doesn't matter if we ruin the communities that we move to. We're just going to do it because we're God and we're better than you. What's really disgusting about this is that I never opted into this. There was never a dialog box that appeared on my phone that said, hey, I know you've been using this voice-to-text feature for the past 2 years and it's been working well for you, but how about having all this information saved to your Google account in a searchable database where even a 4-year-old could just search for certain words and find things that you've said that could be taken out of context, or pieces of dark humor, or just personal conversations that you don't want other people to see. We're saving all that information. We're never letting go of it. And we weren't even planning to tell you it was there until you decided to search for it. That's really creepy. This type of security and privacy stuff should be opt-in, not opt-out. You should not by default be saving a transcript and a WAV file of every single thing I've said for 7 years in an area of my account that clearly links all of that to me by name, so that if my Gmail account is hacked, somebody could then see every personal conversation I've ever had, even if it's outside of the Android or Google system. If I'm in an IRC channel using a chat app on the phone, if I'm making a post in a forum using the Firefox web browser, as long as I've used Google Voice to Text, it's saved and categorized everything. Many people have criticized me for pointing this out by saying that this information is anonymized, but it clearly is not, because it is linked to your Google account. And if it's this easy to do it on the front end, can you imagine how easy it is for somebody to search for this on the back end? Further, Google has had issues with engineers that have acted in very creepy ways. And hey, call me a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but you allowed me the right to be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist when you opted me into saving every single recording of everything I've said for 7 years without asking me if it was okay me and tying it to my account. Google tends to have a lot of employees within a monolithic political and philosophical culture where a lot of them tend to think the same way, and a lot of them tend to be a part of the political ideology that thinks that people who disagree with them on certain concepts must be evil, terrible people. And, well, if they got deplatformed because something they said was taken out of context or misused, no big deal. Imagine giving your worst enemy who hates your guts the power to search through everything you've ever said, every place you've ever went, every app you've ever opened, everything you've ever clicked when you did not opt into it, as long as they're able to sneak into a server room or hack your email account. Imagine that type of power being in the hands of your worst enemy, and imagine them using it. But hey, you've got nothing to hide, right? That's Google. They're doing that, and they're doing far worse, and the reason they're getting away with it is because we're sitting down and accepting it. I think it's time for us to stop accepting it. I'm doing my best to remove Google from my life. It's like quitting heroin cold turkey. It's not something that's easy. You have to slowly wean yourself off of it, and I am going to be weaning myself off of Google as much as I can. My next phone will most likely be a Librem phone, a phone made by people that actually give a crap and respect our right to privacy. My web browser is going to be Firefox. I'm going to be asking all of you, if you really appreciate my videos, if you appreciate everything that I've put out there and the fact that I'm trying to teach you how to fix things and make money for free, the best thing that you could do for me is stop viewing my videos on a website that makes me money and go over to a website where I actually have to pay money for you to view it and watch my stuff there. I don't have a lot of optimism that this is going to go the way that we would like, but hopefully, if this starts to affect their pocketbook, maybe they will start being more transparent about these things. Maybe they will stop hiding this stuff so that, they just kind of hope that people don't see, and by the time they see it, oh, we kind of told you about that anyway, because it's on page 600 whatever of our terms of service. Hopefully they will start actually treating individuals like human beings, because once they have that much control, once they know that much about every individual, nobody is safe. Every single one of you has said something that you may regret in a time of anger, despair, desperation, or maybe just because you're a human who's flawed. Every single one of us has been someplace that maybe we don't want logged permanently. Every single one of us may have opened a program or clicked on something or done something that we don't want following us around for our entire lives, nor do we want that information available, not anonymized, where anybody who has access to your password can find it, and we don't want that information potentially landing up in the hands of our worst enemies if we decide that we are going to speak out against something that we don't like. I am suggesting that we don't give this company this level of insane power, because once they have that level of power, there's no telling what the wrong person would have the potential to do with it. And I would like to have a soft landing rather than a crash landing, so that when the shit does hit the fan, when they do get hacked, when people who work at Google say, that person disagrees with me, I don't like that person, let me see everything they've ever said and how I can humiliate them and destroy their lives, that it's not as bad as it would be if we continued going on the next 10 years, going in this path, acting like sheep to the slaughter, ignoring it. So let's go over this here. Our culture is becoming more and more accepting of our data being mined onto centralized platforms and associated with our name. More people than ever are happy to expose someone's old tweets, old blog posts, old whatever, to try to get them fired and ruin their lives. And the people who do manage to ruin those people's lives are often cheered on social media. Companies are shifting to opt out rather than opt in policies for collection or storage of this data, where you have to opt out of being spied on rather than opt into being spied on. And we are embracing smart home devices that listen to you all the time, Google Assistants that listen to you all the time, Amazon Alexas that listen to you all the time at alarming rates. Lastly, it's becoming more and more commonplace every day to read about companies like Equifax in the news, whose sole job it is to manage personal identifying financial data that's supposed to be confidential for hundreds of millions of people. Companies with billions of dollars in resources can't even do that right and are getting hacked this easily. Now, when you look at any one of these individual factors by themselves, it's not the end of the world. However, each one of these individual factors is not something that would have been able to happen overnight. We had to slowly be eased into this, and when you combine all of these factors together, you get the potential for a seriously dystopian future where we are all at each other's throats. And if you look at it, I don't think 20 years ago that anybody would have imagined that this is where we'd be right now. But we're here, and we should do something about it, because I do fear that if we don't do something about it, if we don't acknowledge that this is something that has the potential to seriously destroy the basic social fabric of society, that we are going to be screwed going forward. I did a video on this about 2 years ago where I thought I was kind of being paranoid, but the more and more that things move on like this, the more I wonder. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.